Hi, this is Barb from Scrappy Mania, and today I'm going to teach you how to create this cute little dress. It is one of those dresses that has a towel, a dish towel, and you hang this over the rail or over the handle of your either dishwasher or your stove or oven, anything. You just hang it over, and it goes like that, and it's very cute. These make perfect gifts for the holidays, and they're very economical to do. You can use a lot of scraps, like what I use here. I use scrap batting and scrap fabric, so you happen to have that. Very easy to do. And then you just need to get towels, which you can get a pack at Costco of these towels, pretty economical. And also you could also get them at the dollar store, like I have here. This one came from the dollar store. The quality is not as good as the ones in Costco, but still it's good enough. And so this one, it was at the dollar store, and it just cost $1. So I like making these really cute gifts that people will like them and treasure them all year long. So this one is the one I'm going to teach you. So what you're going to need is you're going to need your towel, and I have a towel here that's orange. You're going to need some fabric. So what I did is I cut some cotton fabric, and this is 4 by 8. So you need 4 of these, 4 by 8, because you're going to create like a little sandwich with your batting in between, and that makes this panel, makes the top of your dress. So you need 4 of those, 4 by 8. And then you're going to, of course, need the batting. This is also 4 by 8, and you're going to put these in between. You're going to sandwich those in between. And then you're going to need your handles, and that's also 4 by 8. You need 2 of those. Now, I ran out of this fabric, so I'm going to go ahead and use this coordinated cotton fabric, which is burgundy color. But because it's a little flimsy than this one's a lot more like upholstery fabric than this one. This is more like garment fabric. I'm going to go ahead and put some interfacing. I'm using iron-on interfacing. That you have the glue side is the bumpy side that goes against your fabric, and then you iron that on. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But if you have nice sturdy fabric like this one, like upholstery fabric, you don't need to do what I'm doing now, because it'll be strong. But if you want to do it anyhow, I mean, it's not going to hurt it. You can always put some interfacing. And then I also have a press cloth. You can use any kind of cotton fabric as your pressing cloth, because you don't want the glue to get on your iron. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to bring over my ironing board, and I'll put the link. This is an IKEA ironing board that I went ahead and put wood to make it very nice and sturdy, very hard, because this is perfect for quilting. You want a nice hard surface to really get a nice crisp when you're creating your blocks. So I really like this ironing board, and I'll put a link to how I created the cover. I use canvas for the cover, and I upholster it and also put the wood to just make it a little more sturdy. So you're going to go ahead and put your fabric down. Make sure, now this one doesn't matter which one is the right side, because they're both the same, so it doesn't matter. But if you have a fabric like this one, that obviously this is the right side and this is the wrong side, you want to go ahead and place it with the wrong side up. Then you're going to use your pressing cloth. I don't want any glue on my ironing board, so that's why I put the pressing cloth underneath. Then I'm going to sandwich this. This is the way I do it. And that way, when I iron it, if I happen to have the interfacing a little larger than my fabric, it's not going to ruin my ironing board or my iron. So you're going to press your iron on to your fabric. Okay, it's gonna be, it needs to be nice and hot. And then see how, if I would have not put this iron cloth, this piece here, this glue would have been on my iron board. So that's why it's always good to have a pressing cloth. And there, see, it's on pretty, it's glued on pretty nicely on that. So we're gonna do the same thing here, making sure that the bumpy side is facing down. I'm gonna fold this over and then press this on. And just gonna put a gentle pressure. Okay, let's go ahead and test this. Okay, so now I'm done with that. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and take these two pieces and you're going to fold it over. I'm going to go ahead and put my ironing cloth down. I just want to make sure that I protect my cover. You're going to fold it in half and then iron your handle. So you can see it's, you have it in half. Then you're going to open it and you're going to bring this edge up to the center of that crease. Take your iron and just define that crease. Turn it over or turn it around. Do the same thing on the other side. And it's going to look like this. So now we're just going to fold this over, and then fold this over. And now we're going to go ahead and press this. And there is your strap. We're going to go ahead and do a straight stitch around it. And that's going to be one strap. You're going to do the same thing on the other side. And it helps if you have a nice hot iron. Do the same thing. Turn it over. Do the same thing here. Just going to fold it up to the center line. Okay. Now we're going to bring all those pieces together and iron it. Okay. There's my second handle. So far, I'm done with my ironing board. So now let's go ahead and cut my, we need to cut my towel in half. So the easiest way to do this is you fold it in half, like so. You can take a water-soluble marking pen. This happens to be the Cricut one. And I'm just going to put two small little marks right there in the center, as you can see there. One on the other side. So then I'm going to take my rotary cutter and I'm going to align that from the center line, corner to corner, right here. So it's nice and straight. You're going to take your either scissors, or you can take your rotary blade if you happen to have one. And now cut that in half. So now you have 2 panels. So here's 1 and 2. This will be the bottom of the dress. This will be the top of the dress, and then your handles. So let's go over to the sewing machine and let's start putting all these pieces together. So we're here at the sewing machine, and the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and quilt my batting on one piece. I'm just going to quilt it on one piece here. So because I don't have an adhesive back batting, I need to quilt it. If you do have an adhesive back batting, you can go ahead and iron it on. But you still want to do some quilting lines so that way when you wash it, it's not going to crimple and bunch up underneath the pattern. So that's why I like quilting it, and that's why I prefer to use non-adhesive batting, because it's more economical than using adhesive batting, especially if you're going to quilt it. So I'm going to go ahead and do a straight stitch. And then turn it around. And you're just going to do block stitch. So let me show you what we're doing. It's very simple quilting. See how it's very simple? You're just going to go around it and then around again. Keep going around and then finish in the middle like that. So it's a very, very simple quilting pattern, and it looks wonderful. And it goes with the design because you have a rectangle bodice, and it really makes it's part of the design. It makes it stand out. I like how it looks. But if you want to get fancy, you can do those fancy quilt swirls and whatnot. I'm not that fancy when it comes to this. So when you get to the edge, turn it around and see I have like about 1/8 of an inch from the side of the foot. And since I did not lock the stitches here, I'm going again on my last stitch, but then I'm going to go and turn my fabric a little bit, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. Now I'm making my second rectangle. So when you get to the edge, you're going to leave your needle down, lift your presser foot, and then turn your fabric, put your presser foot down, and go along the line. You can use the last line, stitch line, as your guide. And you just want to put that stitch line right against your presser foot. And now I'm just going to go in the center. Go ahead and back stitch, and done. And let me show you how that looks. Go ahead and trim all your excess threads. Like I said, this is very simple little project to do. I would say this is an intermediate project, not a beginner, because you will see in a moment how I have to put in, I gotta gather my fabric or my towel, and then I'm gonna have to put it, insert it in between the layers. So it's a little more skill to do that. It's not a completely beginner project, but with practice you can do it. And see, what I did is right here, you can see how when I started creating that box and I locked it there, see how I go up and then go around. You know, I keep going around and around. So I went this way, went up, went around, And you keep going around, and see, it's kind of almost even space because I use my presser foot as my guide. And you keep going around and around, almost like a Greek key, and then just lock it right there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to my second one, and we'll be back to start assembling our bodice. So now that I have both of my pieces quilted, you're going to need a marking pen and a ruler. I'm going to use this little 2 by, I think it's 2 1/4 by 2 1/4 little square to make my markings. So I want to go ahead and mark 1 inch from the edge, and that's where I'm going to start. Right here is where I'm going to put my my strap. Okay. Let's go ahead and mark that. 1 inch here and 1 inch here. Now I forgot, we're going to need to change our thread because I am going to go ahead and sew this. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and sew it like so. But I don't want to use white because I'm not the best seamstress, so sometimes my lines are not straight, and if you use a contrasting thread, you're really gonna see that. So you want to use a different type of thread. You want to use a coordinating thread that will blend in, and even if your stitches are a little wonky, it doesn't matter, it'll be fine. So let me go ahead, I just realized I didn't change my thread, so let me go ahead and change my thread, and then I'll be back to show you how to sew that. So now we're going to go ahead and sew. I don't need to sew the edges because that's going to be tucked in the bodice of my dress. But I just need to do a straight line on each side. So just make a nice straight stitch. And it helps when you iron your piece because you don't have to worry about using clips or pins or anything. It works wonderful when you iron. It's always a good idea to have your ironing board and your iron on when you're sewing. I used to not do that when I was younger and I was learning to sew. I never really ironed my pieces, and my projects sometimes didn't come out as well. So now that I'm taking the time to really iron my pieces and my creases and my hem, my projects are coming out a lot better. Okay, so we're done with this. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other side, and look how pretty that looks. It's going to look very nice. I hope you can see that. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll be back for we're going to assemble our front of our dress. So now we're ready to go ahead and put our straps. So I'm going to go ahead and place my first strap right on the right side of that marking. I'm going to bring my I'm going to bring my other panel that doesn't have the batting. I'm going to place that on top, and then I'm going to pin it in place. I'm going to take my second strap, lift this up, and I have my marking right here, so I'm going to go on the left of that mark, bring over my panel, and then I'm going to pin it in place. Now we're going to stitch, let's make sure, so I'll put a couple more pins just to make sure that nothing moves on me. So once you have it in place, we're going to go ahead and stitch the bottom of our panel. You're going to go up, turn the corner, and then you're going to do a back stitch right where your straps are, so give it a little bit of reinforcement so they don't come apart. You're going to go ahead and keep sewing. You're going to back stitch on this strip, turn the corner, and then go down. You're going to leave this opening open because this is what we're going to go ahead and put our towel inside, so you want to leave that open. So let's go ahead and get started. You're going to use 1/4 inch seam allowance and just back stitch on the edge. Okay, you're going to stop just 1/4 inch from the edge. Rotate your project. And then right here, I'm right where the strap is, so I'm going to go ahead and go once, back stitch on the same stitch line, and then go forward. And that will secure my strap in place so it will not come apart with the use. Now I'm in my second strap, so I'm going to go all the way to the end, back stitch, and then go forward. I'm at the 1/4 inch seam allowance line, so I'm going to put my needle down, turn the fabric, and then continue on and back stitch. Okay, so now see these corners? We want to go ahead and turn this, and if we leave the corners without snipping it, you're not going to get a nice crisp edge. It's not going to look a nice corner. It's going to look more like a rounded corner. So you want to go ahead and snip the excess thread or the excess fabric right there. So don't cut on your stitch line, just a little before it. And then you can taper in the edges. And that will give you a nice crisp corner. Okay, so now let's turn this over and see if you have chopstick. I always have a chopstick on hand. You're going to go ahead and push that corner up like so, and see how nice and crisp that corner will look. Going to do the same thing on the other side. Use your chopstick. See how nice that, push that corner in there. See how nice that looks? So now we're ready for the second panel. And this is my quilted, so I'm going to lay it facing down. This is my quilted panel. I'm going to lay it facing up. The markings that I did are going to be at the bottom right here. And I'm going to line these straps. And I think I want to go ahead and have at least, let's see, I think having like about 1 inch of excess at the bottom. So here you got 1 inch at the excess. It's okay. And I'll show you in a second what I mean. So we have the dot, my marking here. So at the left of that dot, I'm going to go ahead and pin my strap. So here's my dot, here's my strap, here's my dot, my strap. Then here we're going to do, it's going to be on the right. Here's my dot, here's my strap. About 1 inch excess there. Going to pin that. Okay. Now I'm going to bring this panel and I'm going to place it on top just like we did the other one. And I'm going to pin this. Okay, I'm going to remove the pin down here, making sure I don't lose my placement. I'm going to pin the strap. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing over here. I'm pinning the strap and my panel. Go ahead and pull this off, and now I'm going to pin this. And then this is how we're going to sew it. You're going to go ahead and sew. So this is the panel you just sew, right? I have my other panel pinned together, but I do not want to sew up here. Do not sew on the top. You want to sew at the bottom. So I'm going to go up on the top left side right here. We're going to sew up, do the same thing, turn the corner, back stitch my strap, go over, back stitch my strap, and then come down. So that's how you're going to sew this. You're not going to sew this top. This top layer needs to stay open. This is the only layer that it's going to sew, because when you turn it over, then the top is going to be the bottom and your straps will be held in place pretty nice there. So again, you want to go ahead and sew from the top left hand all the way up, turn the corner, back stitch, and go down, and that's how you're going to put this in place. And you'll see in a second. So let's go ahead and sew this so you can see how it's going to come together. Again, you're going to do 1/4 inch seam allowance. Let's make sure these, yeah, looks good. You got to make sure you catch it. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and get ready. We're going to go ahead and sew 1/4 inch seam allowance. I love these vintage machines, but sometimes they get temperamental. It's good. Okay, so I'm going to turn the corner. Actually, I need to go one more. Turn the corner, and then go back stitch. Make sure I have a nice stitch line on my strap and that it's not going to come apart with use. Back stitch. Okay, needle down. One quarter of an inch and back stitch, and you're done. Again, this is open, this is closed, because now when I pull it, see how it makes this. So I just want to show you real quick. Before you cut anything, make sure that you sewed it right. So we have to have an opening on the bottom and an opening on the top here. This is how it should look. If it doesn't look like this, then you sewed it, you probably sewed the top, which is easy to do. So make sure you test it before you start cutting anything. So now I'm ready to cut it, now that I know that I did it right. So I'm going to cut these extra straps. These are the 1-inch straps that I kind of had in excess. Cut that. Cut the edges, being careful not to cut your stitch line. And then I'm going to remove some of the excess fabric. So I have a nice, nice corners. And see, you cut it at an angle. Be careful not to cut your stitch line. And then now we're ready to turn it over. Okay, and if you want a nice point, you're going to take your chopstick and push on the edges and see how nice that point comes up. See how nice that point looks? And do the same thing on the other side, and it really helps to cut down a little bit on the excess. And be careful not to push too much that you may poke a hole on the edge there. So the next thing, see how it's not lying as flat as I like it to be. So let's go ahead to the ironing board. We're going to iron this down. I'm not going to show you that because you're basically just going to take the iron it so it'll be nice and flat. So now see how it makes a difference when you iron it? It's nice and flat now. So now we're ready to go ahead and do our gathering stitch for our towel. So you're going to go ahead and get your towel, and sometimes most of the towel have a right and a wrong side. So this is the right side, the texture side is the right side, and this is the wrong side. So be very conscious about that when you put your dress together, because you want this to be the outside of your dress. So because I have a quilted area that I want it to be the outside, I do want to have this to also match or be in the same area as my quilted piece. I do not want it on the back. So just, you know, keep an eye on that and always keep that in mind as you put things together. Your stitch length to the longest that you have on your machine, because we want to create a basting stitch. You can do it by hand if you want to, but it's a lot easier to do it by the sewing machine. You're going to leave a big tail. I got a large tail because we're going to use that to pull our thread. And then you're going to go on the edge. You can go 1/4 of an inch in if you want, or 1/8 of an inch. I usually just go on the edge. I use my presser foot as a guide. So the edge of the right side of my pressure foot, it's on the edge of my fabric or my towel. You don't want to backstitch. And then you want to leave a large or long tail for the end. So now you have this. And I left it, you want to use a coordinating thread, but I left it white. And you're not going to see it, it's going to be underneath. But I wanted to leave it just the white color thread so that way you can see it, a contrasting thread. And then gently, do not pull, gently, very gently, you're going to separate your tails, and then you're going to pull. And as you pull, you're going to move the gather. See how gently, and see I use my finger and I roll the excess of the thread on my fingers, and I keep pulling. And gently, I start moving those gathers to the center of my towel. When I was younger and learning how to sew, I used to be very impatient, and I would always break my thread because I was just too impatient. You're just going to take your time and see how it's kind of hard, and there's some resistance and it's not gathering anymore. So what you do is you're going to hold it right here and push those gathers down, then pull it down, and now see how it did some more, and you wind a thread on your finger, hold it, pull the gathers to the other side, And then once you do that, roll your thread in your finger, hold it like this. I want to make sure I don't break it, and keep doing that. Now I'm going to go from this side, and I'm pulling it along to the other side. Now I can pull it again, wind the thread, hold it, and now I'm going to go ahead and pull some more very gently. Keep doing that. Now, before we even pull more towards the edge here, I like to put a pin right at the edge. I'm going to take these two threads and I'm going to wind it because I don't want to unravel my gather. And that's going to lock it in place there. Now I'm going to go back to my original thread here. Okay. I'm going to wind it. And now I can go ahead and gather some more. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring back my bodice. This is not the texture side, this is the texture side. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is my my quilted side. So my right side on my quilted side, or the right side of my dress, and I'm going to pin this. So you want, this is the right side of the dress where the quilt is, the quilted side. This is the right side of the towels where my texture side is. I'm going to put that together. It's going to, the right side with the right side of my bodice, and edge to edge, and we're going to pin right here. You're not going to pin, so this is my stitch line. This is the back, this is the front. You're only going to pin it on the front panel. Then I'm going to come over to the other side. Okay, this is the back, this is the front. I'm going to go ahead and pin this right here. Okay, so I got the two sides pinned. Now we're going to even out the gathers. So you want to stretch it a little, even it out, just play with it, and we're going to pin the center here. Okay, and then I'm going to pin some more. Sometimes when you're starting to sew, one thing you can do is you can hand baste this and then sew it if you like. And I'll show you in a moment what I'm talking about. Okay. Putting a lot of pins, like so. So I'm going to hand baste it so that way you can see how it will be a lot easier if you're having a hard time being able to sew this. You can just take a needle and some needle and thread. Take a nice long thread And we are going to hand baste this right here, and just go in and out right on the edge. Okay, just right on the edge. It's time consuming to go ahead and tackle this than if I use pins, but it's going to make it a lot easier to sew it on the sewing machine. And then you just make a loop, a knot right here. There, done. So now you have that. So now we're going to go to the sewing machine. Let me cut all these extra thread. You're going to go in the sewing machine and you're going to sew 1/4 of an inch from the front edge. So you're going to start right here, 1/4 of an inch, and you're going to sew all along that line. You're going to push the back panel back because you don't want to catch that while you're sewing. So I'm going right at the edge, 1/4 of an inch. This foot is 1/4 of an inch, so I'm using that as my guide. Back stitch, and slowly I'm going to push the back fabric back and just sew along the edge, making sure that I'm not catching the back fabric, so I'm pushing it back. Slowly, just making sure that you're not catching the back fabric. Push it out of the way. Even your gathers. And sew in 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so now you have this. So now see how it is sewed in. So now I can pull this over. And that goes tucked underneath. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn this over. See how I push this in? Turn it over and sew it. See how it looks now? And we're going to go ahead and pin it. It's going to be very thick to pin. You can hand sew this too if you like to, but I like to sew it on the sewing machine. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. You open it. Whoop, let's get rid of all this excess thread. Open it a little bit like so. Tuck it under. See how it tucks under, and then bring it across. Tuck it under, bring it across. The other thing you can do is you can also take it to the ironing board and iron it with the fold in. Okay. Now that I did that, now I'm ready to lay it flat. I lay it flat and then I tuck it under tuck all this under, and I'll put a pin here. Okay, tuck it under. Put a pin here. Okay, tuck this under. Put a pin here. See how that looks? Okay, so now you're going to go ahead and do a straight stitch, and this needs to be tucked a little better. So what you're going to use, if you have one of these purple thing, you can also use a chopstick. As I sew in my as I sew it in, I'm going to use this purple thing to make sure that I push my gather inside the bodice. So I don't know if I can bring you as close as I would like to, but hopefully you can see this. So you're going to go in 1/4 inch and take my pin out. Lift my presser foot and then make sure I'm using my purple thing. So if you don't have one of these gadgets, I highly recommend to get one of these. These are very good to really make sure everything is nicely tucked in, and also you can flatten out. The stitch. Now it may be a little bulky, but be patient with your sewing machine and don't force it. That's how you break needles. So just let your sewing machine do the work, but try not to force it. And I'm going very slow because I want to make sure that I don't force anything. It's a little bulky here, so this is where I'm going to have a little bit of issue. But that's why I like my vintage machine, because they really can go through these very thick areas nicely. They're more heavy duty. And then I'm just going to do a straight stitch on the perimeter of my dress, so that way it looks nicer. I like the look. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I like to create a nice edge stitching on the dress. Gonna back stitch here and done. Let's look and see how it looks. Trimming any excess thread. Okay. I think it looks good. Okay. So there's one panel, and see how nice that looks. And look at the back. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. So I'll have to, I'm going to have to gather my stitch, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on this panel, and we shall be back and I'll show you the final results. So here's my beautiful little dress that I'm going to use for to hang over my kitchen oven, and it actually came out as fall colors. I didn't realize, but this is perfect for fall. And then I have a spring one for here. So this is my spring dress that I'm going to use. And you can create multiple dresses for every occasion. For Valentine's, you can create a red one, and then you can even applique a little heart or even draw a little heart or whatever. You can really make it for anything. Perfect for presents. Like I said, you just need scraps and very economical to create these for presents. So I hope I gave you some tips and tricks how to create this dress, and I hope you like this video, and I'll see you again in another sewing episode, and thank you for watching. Bye now.